So, welcome everyone to the Lonely Entrepreneur. And as we like to say here, you are not alone, right? And our view is that no one should have to learn by putting their hand to the stove, right? There are other people out there, like our illustrious founder and CEO, Michael Dermer, who has been there and done that, right? Especially in a world of AI where things become incredibly more complex day by day. If you can't keep up, there's one way to keep up, and that is finding someone out there that has been there and done that and knows how to do it faster and better. So I don't want to drone on too much, and I want to hand it over to Michael so that he can go through all of our products and services and how we can help you today in every step of your journey. Without further
Hey
ado.
everybody, thanks for taking the time. Thanks, Dr. Sam. It's a pleasure to be here. Once a week I take a time to have the opportunity to provide you guys the opportunity to kind of ask anything in a changing world. I'm going to take just 30 seconds really quick to just kind of walk you through a little bit about what Lonely Entrepreneur does. As Sam said, we think that, regardless of where you are in your journey, we're all lonely entrepreneurs, but nobody should learn kind of by putting their hand on the stove. And so we have a series of solutions that start with our Entrepreneur Survival Guide book, which is How to Survive in a World of AI. A recently released product we call Dermer Diagnosis is basically a free assessment of your business and then a meaty report about the status of your business and the things that are working and not working. Founder Clarity Hour, which is 1 hour with an expert to talk through all your problems and challenges, try to get some clarity. Our learning community, which is a one-stop shop online community with 5,000 learning modules and a place to get your questions answered real time. Founder Blueprint, which is a meaty 5-area blueprint of your business across customers, money, team, your role as CEO, and AI. And finally, for those of you that are further along, our one-on-one consulting practice, which is, we believe that every CEO of a $5 million up company should have a sidekick. And so this is our one-on-one consulting practice to do that. So we'll put some information about all that stuff just to give you a little bit of what we do. But really, this session is for you guys, right? It's there's no question that's off limits. Personal, professional, we've, as Sam very sweetly said, I've been in the trenches myself and kind of know what it's like. And so, as we all know, there's no real business life and personal life. It kind of all blends together. So feel free to, jump in on any questions that you have. No question is off limits.
Great. Well, Michael, I think we should start the conversation. So the conversation has been evolving over the past few weeks about how will you use AI really to increase capacity at a lower level. Like the conversations have been more like up to, $5 million, but we need to evolve to a conversation of what is it going to do between 5 and 25 million, because that's a much larger question. If you want to scale, you've got to know it. So
yeah. I think the real issue, Dr. Sam, is that when you think about growing and scaling up to many millions of dollars, the capacity of your organization is a lot less limited than it was before, right? And the ability to use AI in a way across every function of your business to do it not just fast, but frankly better. We have a concept we affectionately call the Dermer Rule, which is the new 80-20 rule. We believe every function of your business, you should be shooting for 80% AI and 20% human. And there's a reason for that. One is, candidly, it's better. It's better at marketing, it's better at finance, it's better at sales. I'll give you an example. OpenAI itself has in finance created a 0-day close, meaning that it closes its books on the next day at the end of a month. Right? Imagine that, right? So AI does it faster, cheaper, but more importantly, it does it better. Right? It's like if you think about the recent announcement from Merck and Moderna about the cancer vaccine that was just developed largely with AI, going from chemo to something that can identify your specific genome and map a treatment specifically to you, right?
Yep.
The idea that we can't do marketing emails better is almost comical, right? So for every single one of you that are growing, scaling companies, especially, you know, when you're the CEO of a, Sam, to your point, a $5 million growing company, being a founder and being a CEO are two different things. It's like asking a jockey to dunk a basketball, right? The skills that you used as founder to get you to a certain point, right? You know, your vision, your sailing ability, your ability to execute different pieces is completely different from what it takes to get to the next level. And a lot of that is different skills, but a lot of it also the way you can use AI, right? To bridge those gaps and to learn those skills. But it is such an incredible time to be able to take advantage of what AI can do in every single area. And I don't mean to talk about this, you know, kind of amorphously. If you go into any, you know, let's say you have an outsourced bookkeeper, right? And once a month you get your financial statements and you don't really feel like you have your finger on your pulse of your $4 million business, right? Just take your financial statements and dump them into AI, right? Or make sure your bank account is connected to AI and get analysis literally real time, to the point where you could get a notification every single day that says this is how cash is moving. And guys, I don't want to make it sound like you just click a button and it happened. It requires a little work, but it requires a lot less work than it used to, than it did a year ago. And so the opportunity I've mentioned marketing, and I'm happy to delve into marketing is really the one where people are spending the most time, because people have struggled with humans doing this for a long time, for a good reason. But in every area of your business, you should be, in my humble opinion, shooting for 80% AI. And then the 20% is obviously the judgment, the experience, the context, the emotional intelligence, and what sequence to do things in.
Yep, absolutely. I think we have a question from Rich Cordero. Do you want to talk about yourself and your business?
Okay, my business is on rapture.org, and we are creating a global forum for everybody individually to comment on what cures their family member, what doesn't. And we are trying to focus on human to human instead of medical to human. Therefore, people can kind of think what might work for them, and it also opens the door for 200 countries to kind of say, this what works for me, and nobody else knew that.
Right.
So my question is, how do I grow it better? Or how can I find a AI that can, in actual time, translate voices to voices?
Well, I think, Rich, congratulations on the vision. I think the more important question is, you know, to say that you're going to have human everything to anybody, learn what you learn, needs a lot more refinement, right? Because one of the biggest challenges that founders face, me included, is these big visions, but that don't have kind of small execution, right? In terms of finding the actual plan that's going to work, right? Because what you find is you really have to, and this is our language for anybody who knows us, you know, we think the most important skill as an entrepreneur right now is finding a playground nobody else is playing, defining you as an N of one. And when you have these broad visions, right, the hard part is going to go, who's going to buy? How are they going to buy? Why is it different? Why am I going to cut across countries? So I don't think, Rich, the question is, can I get voice to voice? Just so you know, the answer to every question is now is yes. We just cured cancer in 6 months. I mean, I'm being facetious, right? But it is really about, why are you going to win? And then the how comes, right? Because I on this phone call, right, Rich, I could take your idea, put it into my AI, and our AI here at Lonely Entrepreneur is pretty sophisticated. It's run by Dr. Sam, and we affectionately call it Samurai, so Sam AI. So it's an honor to what she's built. I could put that in there and develop a website that just described what you did in, what, Sam, 3 minutes, 5 minutes?
Yep.
And so it's never the how, everybody. And for people that have spent time, baking the cookies in their basement, or your version of that, that's almost offensive, right? It's almost offensive to that. What you have to find is, and this is used a lot in the Entrepreneur Survival Guide, is that you almost have to find markets where the market is zero, where you can't Google it. Like when we started my first company where I had my exit, rewarding people for being healthy. If you went and said rewarding people for being healthy in Google, the market was zero. The only thing you would have gotten is, 25% off your gym membership was the only reward that somebody got. So, and so in a world where the how can be done by a machine, better, faster, cheaper, right? Remember, what used to take $500,000 in product development in 6 months now takes $2,000 in tokens and maybe a month, right? So you're never going to be able to win on a how. The question is, how is the positioning of what you're doing unique so that you are defining the space, right? We call it finding a playground Noah's playing. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. So I think AI gives us incredible capability to do stuff, right? But the stuff you do has to be differentiating. Otherwise, you're just doing the same stuff that everybody else does.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you.
Of course.
Dwight?
Hey, Michael, how are you, sir?
How you doing? Nice to see you.
Thank you, sir. Really great to see you as well. I have a question about, I'm an entrepreneur who is talking about leadership in the age of AI, authenticity in the age of AI specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to get your perspective on who would be the people that you would approach in an organization when HR might not necessarily be the people, even though ultimately they are the ones that are going to administer the contract, but they are not necessarily the people that, in your experience, have demonstrated the most authenticity in leadership. So how would you market this concept to a corporate group?
Great question, Dwight. Dwight, where are you based?
I live outside of Boston.
Gotcha. So first of all, and no disrespect to the HR community, the HR has never bought anything in the history of the planet, right? And so selling something to HR when they don't know how to buy it, nor do they have a budget to buy it, is definitely not. What I would say is this, Dwight, is that, and this goes down to a little bit of the first technique in the Entrepreneur Survival Guide is finding a playground. The second is what we call brand chemistry. And brand chemistry is really kind of this intimate understanding, right, of a customer's problems and issues. And what I would say is what I think you have to define is, where is the lack of leadership in AI causing them real pain? Right? So one of the things we were talking about this morning internally, large organizations, the big challenge with large organizations right now is they have to build the security and the protocols and all those types of things, where it becomes harder and harder and harder to execute a strategy because they're subject to the things that all of us entrepreneurs aren't subject to. What I would say is, if you most projects without the imprimatur from the leadership of what AI can do for them, right, fail. So if you said to me, everybody's supposed to do AI, and yet if you don't have real leadership around AI, it fails, all of a sudden now I'm paying attention, right? Now, you might not get to do that at, the largest company, but you might think about mid-sized companies that don't have the McKinseys and the Accentures and the Qs. And you go in and say, listen, if you're a $40 million company, your CEO is running down the hall going, use AI, right? And your CFO is going, save money with AI. But the leadership is not really creating, and again, this is brand chemistry, a real understanding of what is it like to have a $40 million company and what are the challenges. But it can't be, Dwight, leadership in general. It's got to be, we call it, our words, you have to show insight and risk. What is real insight about that size of company and that CEO and the struggle, right? And what is the risk of doing it wrong?
Yeah.
And the reason I say insight and risk is because everybody comes to the table and says, we're good at what we do. Our cookies taste great, right? Everybody comes to the table and says, our customers love us. Everybody comes to the table and, right? Like, and so none of us pay attention to that anymore. It's when you have real insight, right? And you identify real risk because of that insight. Somebody goes, those guys, like, I'll go sit down and talk to those guys. So I hope that's helpful.
It is. I mean, so is the fact that, like our young people are looking to AI for things that they should be asking you, for example, is that the compelling reason that we should say, hey, humans, this is the place, this is the lane that we carve out for humanity as it relates to AI? Is that compelling enough?
It's not compelling enough. The only thing I would say is that, so two questions in what you're talking about. One is, AI is going to be better at 80% of it, and some functions it's going to be better at 95% of it. Like the code written for Claude Code was written by Claude Code, right? Like it's going to be better at, and I'm using 80. The 20 is judgment, context, But what I would say to you, Dwight, is that what makes it compelling is things that, you put your hand on the stove and it burns, right? It's not like, and that's why I'm kind of giving HR a tough time.
As you should.
Right? Because I sold to HR, I'm like, hey, we're going to reward people for being healthy and they're going to be healthy. And they're like, well, and it was like, you're burning billions. But what I mean by this brand chemistry and what I mean by compelling is you have to have such an insight about your customer and the pain that it causes, real pain. So if I'm a CFO, if I'm a CEO of a $40 million company, the pain is I'm either not keeping up with my competitors. My marketing is costing more, which it is for many, many people right now because of this transition. I'm not reducing my P&L cost enough because, right, it's those are like the, in the past, in 10, 20 years ago, I might have called it burning platforms. Like if you're not intimate enough with your customer to understand what their burning platforms are, you're lost in the noise of the noise.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great questions. Thanks.
Hey, Google Pixel. So if you have another name, let us know. Feel free to.
I think you're on mute.
Yep. You're still on mute if you're.
You're still on mute. Anyway.
Try it. You can always put your question in the chat if you want.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's see about technical difficulties. We'll come back to you.
Yep.
Is it Zan?
You got it. You got it. Thank you so much. One, thank you. Nice to meet everyone. Zan Grant with MIP Tags. We are a QR code alternative. We're the human readable QR code, as we say, because none of us can read a QR code with our human eyes. So why are we using it in our marketing? We are the AI authority now, as we say. So the question is that we are, Michael, in a new, right? Like people don't understand that the physical world, AI is now going to recommend whatever, and ChatGPT is selling its solutions, right? Like, hey, this person paid me to recommend you. We make you that authority, right? And take your whole digital world to all one place. Oh, hold on one second. Okay. So the question to you, Michael, is that when you do find that one, right, that you are in that new playground or maybe a little bit ahead of your time, how has it been your journey in trying to make sure you can get enough investors to help keep you going till you get to that point? That's the question I kind of have for you that's the lonely part, right? That people think you're crazy, and that either means you're crazy or you're on something that hasn't been, discovered yet. What's your feedback for us on that?
Well, first of all, you could have two different investor meetings the same day, and one will say it's not different enough, and one will say it's too different. So forget about that, right? Forget about that. What I would say is this, again, it goes back to, what is ultimately compelling, right? I know for me, where I really learned this was rewarding people for being healthy. It was very clear that if we got people just to do a couple of things in their healthcare, the system would save lots and lots and lots and lots of money. But at the times, and the idea of paying people to do the things they should be doing was offensive to people. And so what I realized was, and Dwight, it goes a little to our conversation, is that you have to sell it to the right person, right? So if you sell it to the person that has, by the way, in our circumstance, built the same stupid system that caused all these problems, right? The idea, and so we started saying, why would somebody want to reward people for being healthy? And what we realized, it was a way that big health plans would win insurance contracts, because they could go to big corporate America and say, I have a mechanism to reduce your healthcare costs. So I think that then in a lot of ways, then it's not the concept of the idea, right? It's what economic or emotional drivers are you driving on behalf of a customer? If any of us are talking about the how, we've already lost, right? Because anybody can do how, right? In this day and age. So the question becomes, how does your solution enable a key economic goal, a key emotional goal, a key competitive goal, right? And why you versus anything else? If we're saying, and I know that you're not saying this, but I have the best mousetrap, no investor would say you could have the best mousetrap. Remember, SaaS companies now, SaaS lost a $1 trillion in market cap in a week in February when Claude released its kind of legal add-on. It wasn't even a product. It wasn't even Harvey.io, because they're like, why would we ever buy SaaS from everybody? Now, that's been a little bit overstated, but it goes to show you that all the VCs and all the investors of the past that love technology now hate technology. They want guys that make pizzas and deliver
The physical
trucks, right? The physical world, right? But so what you've got to figure out, similar to what we're saying to Dwight, is where do you have brand chemistry? Where do you have real understanding of the customer problems and a unique understanding of if they don't use somebody like you, right? They're going to experience that. And that has to come through not only your customers, but also your investors, right? If investors don't feel that, most investors, again, depending on how sophisticated they are, most investors go, if you come to me with a how or a piece of technology, you can't win.
Yeah. Understandable. Thank you.
You got it.
All right. I think Google Pixel, your tech works now, right?
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. I
Tell us your
apologize for that. My name's John. I'm in Arizona, and I'm not used to this. I'm used to having no say when I talk to entrepreneurs. So I really appreciate it. I usually just webinars and I listen. I appreciate you giving us your time like this. It's amazing.
Oh, my pleasure.
And I'm going to try to consolidate this because there's a lot going on. I was unemployed, laid off in tech. I was part of a pretty good sized company that was partnered with NHL. I was doing technical operations for them. And I've been doing web for 25 years. I taught myself HTML in 1997, started doing websites for local companies in Alaska where I grew up and everything. And then from there, I've just built on that. And so I've always had this idea to work for myself and the amazing reach of the internet. And so this last year, since I got laid off, has been the most amazing time for me as someone who has known the possibilities, but not actually been the coder. Now I have coders at my fingertips, and anything is possible, which means it becomes much more important to decide what you want to do, what you want to focus on. I've created some amazing apps that I think are amazing. Phonobaby.com is one where you basically turn any audio into a unique 3D object that you can print and gift to somebody. They can then type in a code that's printed on the back and listen to that forever, hold it around their neck, put it on their desk, whatever they want. The audience for that, I feel, is very much a sentimental one. Obviously, the gap there is that 3D printing is still not going to be mainstream. You have a lot of good options to be able to send it. I've been working on trying to get the API to connect with Shapeways, which is, I got to contact them because they need to work on the API. But I guess the question I have right now is how do I move forward if I don't have a marketing budget? And that really, when I have these very much working products that I've created, and I know there's value to them, and I need a partner is the only thing I can think, or an investment of some kind. And of course, like I said, I was laid off, so I'm at the end of my run there of being able to completely work for myself without getting more income. I've been able to get some gigs on the side, to make ends meet, and had some friends and family help out. So right now, I feel like I'm just right there on the verge of being able to make something work for myself. And this is, by the way, this is like 5% of the things that I've been working on. This is the one I'm just most recently working on. So when it comes to marketing, that seems to be the number one issue. And right now, what I'm looking at right now on my phone and you're looking at is the most expensive and, well, valuable real estate, right? Somebody's phone is what we're looking at 90% of the day now, it seems like.
Yeah.
So any advice for low budget marketing for things like that?
Yeah, so I think there's a more fundamental question than marketing, because my second part of my answer is that AI can do a lot of marketing for you, right? The more fundamental question is who cares, right? Like again, it's a matter of looking at these solutions, these technology solutions, and saying, what economic driver does it drive, and why you, and why wouldn't I just get that from AI? I mean, that's a much more fundamental question to, what I've been saying to everybody here, which is what economic, competitive, right? That is a much more fundamental question than how do I market something that's a piece of technology that ABC. That is a fundamental question you have to ask, and you have to be really careful, especially with a technology background, to say, I'm going to create 27 things, because building technology is not unique these days, right? So you really have to ask yourself, where are you solving a real economic, emotional, or competitive product? Or if it's for a consumer, where that is a much more fundamental question. Once you get that, there's plenty of ways to use AI to market, right? Without humans. In fact, if you gave me $1 trillion, I would hire 80% AI and 20% human. So you don't need a big team to do it like you used to do. That's the opportunity. But I do think that you have to dig in and try to really ask yourself that much more fundamental question.
Okay. So I have, like I said, many other ones. One is,
I don't want to, we're happy to talk.
I'm going to go into all of them. Just one more that I think is the most valuable one that I have. And it's basically, do you know the business model of the coupon book for raising money?
Yep.
I've created that, and I've created it to the point where you can put it in your Apple Wallet, you can put it in your Google Wallet. You can have 10 different businesses in your device, basically in your area, that if someone was raising money, they can go to these businesses and say, okay, ABC Donuts wants to give 15% of every purchase to this. It's in their wallet now. You can walk around. It gets alerted if you buy the ABC Donuts, and you get fined out. I don't have the people I need to be able to talk to for that are charities, nonprofits and things like that to be able to do that. And I guess, yeah. Any ideas as far as being able to get some traction on it would be helpful.
Yeah, again, I think the more fundamental question is, when we have GoFundMe and we have 20, 30 other fundraising sites, why
not
you?
Bad at all. Okay. Got it.
Yeah, that's the more fundamental question. It's not, can I, that's the part I think you have to
GoFundMe doesn't do that. It's very unique what I've come up with as far as being able to actually ping you when you're near the business, because Google API has changed this last year to allow that now on your phone through an SDK. So that's something that's unique and has not been done. And I've searched and I can't find anything else like it. So
yeah, and I think the question becomes, who cares, right? Like who is going to benefit from that, and who's your customer?
Yeah.
All right, great. I'll make sure thank you for that. Mitch, I believe you had a question next.
Yes. How do you help a business owner maximize value of their company and successfully prepare it for sale?
That's a great question. I think that the number of companies that either are looking to or need to look to exits and acquisitions is growing, because there's many companies that historically have been perfectly fine and not at competitive risk, and now they are, right? And so if you're an accounting firm, if you're like the list goes on and on and on, as you can see, there's like accounting firms are being scooped up left and right, because it's just, I'm not talking about a small accounting firm like $1 million in your local neighborhood. You could always have that, but if you're competing, all of this is going to be done by AI, and so if you have revenue, right, and you have EBITDA of a couple $1 million, what you've got to do, Mitch, is you got to say, first and foremost, am I in an industry where that's happening? And many of them are, even in nuts and bolts industries, even in funeral homes and trucking companies. I mean, you're going to be competing against things that are consolidated together by private equity, right? And so you got to say to your number one, am I in one of those industries, right? Because the idea of just passing my, $27 million company onto my kids is not as easy anymore, because if I'm rolling up 100 trucking companies, right, I'm going to bring a lot of efficiency, a lot of technology, a lot of this, that, and the other thing. It's going to be hard to compete. So are you in an industry? Then once you're in an industry that you believe you got to either need to do that, or you're thinking about doing that, raising money and selling your company it's everything from, do you have the right materials? Are you approaching the right investors? Have you been trained to say the right things, right? One of the biggest things is going after the right investors and right purchasers, right? If you go to sell your company if you're a $40 million company and you're selling it to another $40 million company, they're not going to be able to pay very much, right? But if you sell it to a private equity fund of $1 billion that's rolling up a bunch of funeral homes, as an example. So it's a long answer, Mitch, of just when you're preparing yourself for sale, right? There's probably 15 or 20. In fact, we'll forward something that we have around exits. I think we identified 18 different things that you have to be able to do to chip away at. But it's not just lipstick on the pig, right? Because once somebody's going to write a big check to you, they're going to do due diligence. They're going to get in there and they're going to realize that you're going to have to prepare yourself a little differently from just growth.
Thank you.
Great. Matthew Anderson, it looks like you had a question from the start about your business. Do you want to tell us more about it? Let's see if he is still online. Oh, he is. All right. Well, essentially he asked a lot of questions about, how to focus on audience and flagship offer for an AI business, essentially, if I understand it correctly. 90-day strategy is out the door.
Yeah, I mean, it's a matter of aligning. I keep going back to the same thing. It's a matter of aligning to this internal understanding of a problem and a way that you solve it by bringing kind of insight and risk to the table, and then the marketing of that. The problem is not enough people do that first part first, and then they go, okay, how do I use AI to market? But if you're marketing against machines, right, you're not going to win unless you've got something compelling about why that's your playground and why you should win about it.
That makes sense. All right. Tom James. Sorry.
Yeah. Hi. There are lots of things AI can do, but from what I've seen, at least regard to my business and other businesses that I know and people that I know, there's only one thing of value, really, that I've seen that I have value that I want. There were two companies that actually did do this. I saw them successfully do this, is getting a couple of hundred people out to an introduction for your business. I saw a hypnosis company do that. Not that they hypnotized the whole internet, but they used AI as like they used a specific procedure to drive 400 to 600 people out every 2 weeks. And from the introduction, they just generated tons of business. And that, to me, is the most valuable thing. I mean, AI can do lots of things, but that's the most valuable. I can literally make I can make trillions of dollars off of that thing. How to
Yeah.
get what to say to them to get them out? I'm clear about what to say, but the thing is, it has to get. There has to be a mechanism or a vehicle or a way using AI to get. If I had that, it'd be worth everything. I agreed. I even said to these companies, "Can you tell me how to do this? Will you sell it to me?" And they weren't willing. They just wanted me to buy more of their products.
Yeah, listen, I think that 95% of buyers don't want to go physically anywhere to buy anything. It's a little different when it comes to events. Here's what I would say to everybody, and I'm not the arbiter of this, of course. If your thought process in your head is AI can't, I would go down to a local bar, have a couple bourbons, and change that, because there's nothing. AI just created personalized cancer treatments for an individual person based on their DNA. Like the key is how do I learn about it so that it can be an enabler of my unique thinking about things. So Tom, with all due respect, AI is better at most things than all of us, because it's the accumulation of all humans' experiences, right? If you go to the dentist a million times, or if you go to a dentist and a dentist locked himself in a room and all he did was do the same type of cleaning his whole life, he would do 1,000 of them, and AI does 1,000 a second. So the idea that it's not going to have the best data and the best information, you just have to embrace, regardless of what you think it's doing to society. As an entrepreneur, you have to embrace the juice that it provides you to do anything. But thank you for your.
No, I know it can do it,
Yeah.
because clearly 2 companies are doing it. I'm just wondering if you know how, or anyone knows how, because I would pay for that. In fact, there were.
Well, the magic of all this is defining your playground, be able to deliver a compelling value story around, because you bring real insight and risk to help understand how you get from point A to point M. That's the magic. I mean, that's all of it.
Can I jump in and just give a really good answer to what I hear?
Sure.
I'm David Cutler, and I'm sorry just to jump in and interrupt, but what I have to answer these last 2 questions is someone like Michael around, a friend of mine who I've worked with, who likes me, who trusts me, and I can go off and use AI too much, and he can get pissed off and tell me not to do it anymore, and we can argue about where it is relevant, and we literally talk about, and this is my answer, what everybody needs is not a co-pilot, but a human that is aware of the brilliance of AI, but also the limitations. A fan and a critic. And I took several months to kind of get that AI answers it all out of my system, and now I have a better methodology. I think first, that kind of thing. I go into AI. I just have a better method. I think that's what we need. And if that's what kind of what you're providing, Michael, I think you are in many ways doing that, having kind of a friend that is a kind of sensibility. It's what I find valuable.
Yeah. So this is what I just brought up on the screen, put aside my ugly mug, is what we think is the new 80-20 rule. Is exactly what you're saying, is that AI should get you 80% of the way there, and the human is 20. And when you look at every function, whether it's strategy or finance, let's take finance, right? There's the AI part, and then there's the specific part that's human, that brings to your point, David, brings real value to the table. I think one of the real fallacies, it is such an enabling technology, okay? But the idea that when we went to our doctor and our doctor said, I want you to do exactly this, the idea that we just blindly went home and listened to our doctor is no different than what you're saying, David. The only difference is we got a really good doctor now. And that doctor can do so much. But does it require judgment and discernment and all these different things? Even to your point, David, the way you understand context and the way you use your AI. So it's exactly as you're saying it. It's not anti-AI. It's that it might do 98% of coding, right? More than my 80. And that's being proven. But you got a couple of humans around it right? That are giving it its context and its experience and the judgment of how you do A and B and C. That is the magic of kind of what we kind of call only entrepreneur 1+1 = 7, right? When you put those together, you can really supercharge it. So I think David's perspective on this is really right. Don't think of it as 100%, but you don't need to.
Can I go into my question now that I have a chance, because I think this might give you context to where you and I might intersect, Michael. Could I?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, great. And by the way, I use 70-30 just because I want people to want to give more to automation, but still 70% is human. But we can argue about that over a bourbon or whatever you're drinking, because you said that earlier and got me thirsty. So I'm David Cutler. I am crafting myself over the last several years as a defender of biz dev, and I think it's doing similar things as you, Michael, except I'm focusing the hot tip of my spear is sales and growth, right? And it seems to pull away a lot of other things around these conversations that I hear you're having that aren't relevant to me, so I can be very, very pure with it. So here's my point. And I'd like your opinion on the evolving sales journey. And I'm using biz dev because sales is a scary word for a lot of people. I love it. A lot of people scare. And I'm wondering who you think cares about having a defender of biz dev, where, yes, it's definitely lonely entrepreneurs, but it's salespeople who want to earn it and work hard and not sell crap and not be responsible for somebody else's milestones and making 100 calls a day because somebody else thought it was important that doesn't have to do that. And they're interchangeable. And it's really respecting that human being that I've been in my past. And then I ended up managing them and doing really well, realizing that maybe it is a pulpit, if you will, where I get to say, stop treating people like crap, don't, and that includes your prospects, right? Spamming them and bombarding them, and these salespeople that are being augmented by their AI agents. So it's a lot of evolving things, but I still believe that relationship and that 80-20, 75-35 is really, really important. And I'm wondering, who do you think cares, honestly, who cares about my mission? And it's a subset of who you're talking to, probably, because, it's biz dev and sales. Who cares about relationship selling? And the bottom line is, who cares about the customer success? Because I find myself too obsessed with that. And everyone's like, shut up and sell, David, or shut up and tell my salespeople to sell, and stop asking about the product and the value and the long-term value for the customer. And it's maybe a deep breath time, and AI can help us kind of see through this scaling at all costs. And I just thought you could answer a little bit about where I'm headed and how it kind of aligns with you.
Nobody cares. And the reason why I say that is because if you ask B2B buyers, right, unlike many years ago, B2B buyers now, with the use of AI, will do 95% of the work on their own, and they never want to talk to a sales professional.
Right.
And so the data all shows that everybody gets really, 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 really far with all the tools that are available to them. Now, what I would say, David, part of what I'm talking about in terms of customer intimacy is that the difference is going to be, do I have an intimate understanding of that problem, that customer's problem and challenge? Do I bring real insight and highlight real risk for that customer? And that will always be the differentiating factor, right? There's no reason in the world to ever pay for name your accounting service, because the point is, it's all going to become plumbing. And even to the point where, McKinsey and Accenture, the people that are considered supposed to be the smartest people in the world, are laying off consultants left, right, up, or down because AI can do it better. So the point is, David, as much as I'm kind of busting your chops a little bit, but nobody cares, what people really will expect in the 5% is, in my example, is, do you really get me? Do you really understand my problems and challenges? And do you bring to me, again, real insight, a highlight of real risk that makes me go, these guys are different than all the other mousetraps. But the idea of having a beer in a bar, you'll have a beer in a bar because you like having a beer in a bar. You won't have a beer in a bar because you need it as part of the sales process.
Right. So stay with what you know and know what you say. It's like old school, but it is still the differentiator when people are using AI slop and the buyers are.
Nobody cares about AI slop if it's the right slop.
And that's kind of where I was.
The idea that we
really
as humans were doing it great for 100 years and then all of a sudden AI slop. By the way, AI slop is better than 95% of human slop because it takes into account all the slop and all the good. Here's what's going to happen. I'll make you a prediction. It follows SEO. In the past, SEO was, right, you publish a lot and people tried to black hat it. And then they said, well, you have to publish frequently. And then eventually they said, we want you to publish longer articles. And eventually, you know what it came down to? Longer, shorter. So do people engage with it? Is it good enough? The same thing is going to happen with AI. If every piece of content on the history of the planet was written by AI, the arbiter by Google and it is going to be, do people use it? It is not going to matter who writes it. What's going to matter is, do the people that it's intended to go to engage with it and use it and get value out of it?
It's really interesting that LinkedIn is doing this. Hey, do you see slop? Do you see slop? And like I was saying, my first answer to you was my friend Mike, who is like covering, calling me out when I use it too much. And it's really friendly to have someone like that because he loves me anyway, right? And he's a good old friend and he'll give me shit when I deserve it. But he's now reacting to when I say something and he can say, I see that you use Claude. I'm like, of course I use Claude.
Claude's better than all of us.
Right.
Combined.
But did you, yes, exactly. But
so why would we be down on using Claude?
Exactly. But it's that knee-jerk reaction we're having right now. Very pendulum.
That's just the positioning of people like SmartStack and Substack and Reddit and LinkedIn. They're just trying to position that we're preserving it for you. I could not care less who it comes from if it's really compelling to me.
Yeah,
and that's where I think we're ultimately going.
So
thank you.
That's I'll shut up now because that was really, really good kind of sequence what we had there. The ultimate goal is to be able to be right and help those buyers who don't need us. I mean, if I'm a salesperson, help them anyway. Know the market better than AI does because of the synergy and this synthesis
because the human
and all this
plus
stuff.
the 1 + 1 = 7. That's right.
Yeah.
That's customer intimacy, right?
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
And just so you know, we'll stay on longer so we can get to everyone's questions. So I think next is Triana.
Hi everybody. I hope all is well. Thank you for sharing a lot of insight. So I'm a board certified pain recovery specialist and I'm the founder of Destined for Greatness. I help people who feel stuck and overwhelmed build confidence and grow in alignment, even if they're struggling or they need a little bit consistency. My question is, as I scale, how do I keep that transformation first while positioning myself instead of like using the generic brand stuff? Like, what products should I put out to stay consistent?
Consistent with what? I just want to understand your question.
I'm sorry, guys. What did you say?
You said to stay consistent. What do you mean by consistent?
I mean, like, instead of putting out too much products, how can I put out products that will keep the transformation going, like, consistently?
Well, I think it goes down to, if you have, again, the same type of concept, right? If you have an intimate understanding of a customer, I'll give you an example. So it's an example I've used before. There were some young ladies that were developing wellness products and healthcare products for young Black women. And, if you went and you searched that on the internet, you'd find lots and lots and lots of examples, put aside whether you thought they were good or bad. And they were struggling. And it turns out they had done a lot of stuff for Black sororities. And so they started to position a lot of their content around what is it like to be a young Black sorority girl. And by having an intimate understanding of that customer, they were able to determine, given that lifestyle, given the insight, given the risk, all the stuff we've been talking about here, how do I align the right products and services to, if that's their playground? So Triana, I think it's a matter of really having, if you have an intimate understanding of a certain type of customer and you have a reputation of having true insight about it and highlighting the risk of not using somebody like you, how do you build on that? Right? It's not the number of products, right? It's a matter of, because you can get products anywhere, right? It's the why you question, right? Especially when, as you grow, one of the challenges for founders is when you're not in the proverbial room anymore, right? How do you maintain the compelling message that makes them go, these people really get me, and now I'll look at your product and services.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Great. Salvatore, I think you're next.
Yeah, thanks for your time. My name's Sal. I'm the GP at an insurance-linked securities investment fund. We're projected to have about 350 million under management by this time next year. And I have a little bit more of a personal question. So like we're like hyperscaling right now. Basically, we have about 20 million under management, and we're in talks with a bunch of people that are gonna invest a lot of money. They've already written LOIs and stuff like that. So we're going to scale pretty quickly. But I wanted to ask, what kind of people should I bring into to my company and like my own personal circle to protect myself financially, and also kind of help me like get a grasp on like my personal finances and make sure that that's protected and growing as well?
Great question, Sal, and congratulations. Sounds like you've kind of hit the ground running here. There's a couple different elements to this. I'll start with the company first, Sal. It's my example of, jockey dunking a basketball. Let's say a lot of people that do what you do are really good at relationship building and money raising, right? And those are different skills from some company building, right? So as far as people goes, you got to say to yourself, okay, what are the people and the process and the metrics? What is the structure, right, that I have to put in place so we can kind of do our thing, bring in capital, deliver on that capital, right? And so think of it almost like the difference between your org chart looking like a solar system with your head in the middle and you're the sun versus an org chart, right? And evolving over time to the difference between being a founder and a CEO. And you don't have to do that all day one, right? But you have to think about that and understand that to create an organization that's structured for growth. I would say on a personal level, number one, it's your ownership in the company, right? What is the ownership structure? What's the equity structure? What is the board structure? Like how does that evolve, right? And that may or may not. If you're just investing money, right? It's not like an equity investor, but you do, Sal. You have to structure the organization. You have to structure your employment agreements with the with the company. You have to structure your equity plans and your board of directors. I mean, all that has to be set up because you get to be playing with the big boys and you start to take in equity capital, not to invest, not to manage, but to invest. It's a different thing. And then that relates to your personal stuff. Is it an LLC, right? How are you taking advantage of net operating losses if you have them, So it's a longer topic of conversation. I'd suggest you meet with, get some conversation with our guy, Mitch, who deals with this a lot. It's very similar to his question before about preparing for exit, right? You're not exit. You're preparing for what sounds like a pretty exciting level of growth.
Yeah. So on the exit path, kind of a side note, we're actually partnering up with the president of the Texas Stock Exchange, and he's going to help us basically go public in the next probably 6-7 years or so too. So, and then my CFO was the CFO of Millennium Hedge Fund based out of New York.
Yeah, of course.
Helped grow them from a couple $100 million to over $1 billion during his time there. His name is Chris Daniels. So he's a great friend, and he's actually our CFO and setting up the structure behind all this.
Terrific.
My main question was really just kind of like, we have like a pretty good team already between the three of us, three GPs. Do we really need to bring on like somebody else? Like eventually I do want to make like our own proprietary LE algorithm that we can put in for these for these policies and get like a more accurate LE reading on it. But that's going to be probably 2-3 years in the future here.
Well, no, so I mean, when you have if you have a strong investment function and you have a strong finance function, which it sounds like you do, it doesn't mean you have to put all these places in. The only thing I would say is, marketing is the marketing sales part of, how you bring in more capital and those types of things is another function. But no, I think it's more of having the structure of running a company versus running an investment fund, right? Mm-hmm. It's more that transition. Why don't you do this, Mitch? Why don't you follow up with Sal, have a conversation with him, because there's a lot of stuff that goes into it, Sal. But you're obviously having those core team members that have been there and done that, especially at a place like Millennium, is a great place to start. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the help.
I'll do that, Mike. You got
great.
it.
All right. I think Machine Digital. I think you were next.
Hey, how you guys doing? This is a great call. This is awesome. So thanks for doing this, Michael. I don't really have a business question per se. Oh, by the way, my name's Nick. I'm an art director, a design engineer, so I'm pretty well versed with a lot of the concepts and principles you're talking about. But I had a personal perspective question, Michael, I want to get from you. Is so you're dealing with these CEOs and a lot of business people quite often. Are you getting a sense of apathy where they don't even want to use AI? Because in my experience, I'm seeing that there's one segment where they're all in, and all in, pretty much the same mindset that you have. And then there's another where it's complete. I don't want to use AI. I'm against AI. I don't care what it can do for my business. So my question is, have you seen that? Are you coming across that? And what's your experience of dealing with CEOs and entrepreneurs and their perspective on AI?
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah. Great question. Thank you. Where are you based?
I'm based in Los Angeles.
Gotcha. Yeah. So here's what I would say. There's definitely, I think the perspective that's a little bit off right now is this is a nice to have, right? That this is an optional choice for people to actually do it. In every single industry, maybe short of making pizza and probably even making pizza, AI you're going to be competing against the machines, right? So if you're competing at the machines, if you're like, listen, I'm going to lock myself in a room and I'm not going to do it, you may not feel it for a week. But remember, if you're a plumber right now, the ultimate hands-on thing, you take a picture of it on your phone and you send it to AI and it gets you 90% of the way. So yes, there's no question there are people saying, I get to make a choice. You do not get to make the choice because you're now competing with the machines who are going to deliver on your product or service better, faster, quicker than you can, subject to our conversation before about the human part. So there's no doubt that there are those things, but that is literally putting your head in the sand. I mean, that is like at the time we had the first car saying, I want a faster horse. I mean, we are at a time where if you are not saying, I'm not using AI to do a lot, you're in the rearview mirror. Now, you may not feel it for a day, you may not feel it for a week, but everybody who cares about your domain, right, is doing it faster, better, cheaper. So if you have that perspective, I would say, we can have enough bourbon to have that debate about whether that's good or bad for society, but you better get on the train because the train is a lot faster than the trains that used to be.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll just close with this, that I share those same sentiments when it comes down to creatives. Because I used to be on the opposite end where I don't want to use AI. I'm a good designer. I don't need to do that. But the reality is designers should be ahead of AI. They should be shepherding the movement because why give it to someone who has no taste? That just...
And that's the thing. You make a great point. It's our 80-20. The 80-20, the 80 gets you so much of the hard work of design and the slugging through all of it. Now you don't have to do all that. You can bring the 20% of creativity and past and experience and context. I mean, the one that really shook me was they put out a Monet online.
To
the art community, and they said, this isn't AI. Don't ruin the punchline. This is an AI that was made. This was a Monet that was made by AI, and the art community destroyed it. They said, it's not this, it's not that, and it was the actual Monet.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So here's the thing. Exactly what you just said. Creatives is a great example. So many things, right, if you have this supercharged engine behind you, right? If you're having the debate of, I don't want to use it, you're lost. You're screwed. You may not be screwed today. You're going to be screwed in a week and a month. Don't do that. Say, okay, use my construct, 80%. I can use 80% of it to make me better, faster, cheaper, smarter. And then I put my context and my experience to say, this is how you drive this supercharged car. And if you don't know any of that, no problem. Just start to incrementally experience it and go through it and see. Like if we were all write a book right now, right? We could write a book on this conversation within 15 minutes of the end of this conversation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it would say from LA to Baltimore, like, right? It would be whatever the hell it is. And then we would sit around and put another 20% on it. And in 2 days, we'd have a pretty killer book. So that's the perspective we all have.
Appreciate you.
Right.
Thank you.
All right. Great. Jatika.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm enjoying listening to the conversation. I am a professional speaker and trainer, and my company is helping women who are newly promoted or recently hired to understand their jobs better if their jobs include public speaking, something they've always had a fear of. Here's my question. It's sort of left-handed, which I am. Here's my question. I really want to explode or increase more in-person training and have AI as almost secondary what I do when I'm doing more online, when I'm doing more talking and we're doing more coaching. Is it wishful thinking on my part to put AI in the back seat and have in-person, live and in-person in the front seat as the grower? Or is that just old school and I won't be able to grow the business based on that? People seem to do well when they are face to face as opposed to getting something online from, they know it's not me, or they may not know if it's not me or
I'll
not.
behave better next time. I mean, I'm trying to get everything done, you know.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I won't have any work.
I'm worried that
You decide.
am I taking the business back to before COVID, or is this really a way to advance it because I'm doing more in person? What my goal is to have once every quarter do a couple of in-live training sessions in different parts of the country, do actual in-live training sessions, and still have the coaching with AI. Am I looking backwards, or is this really a way to take the business forward? And I'm open to any and all suggestions.
Would you like the good news or the bad news?
The bad news first.
Take my answer to David. If you go back to 20 years ago, the way people sold things, 50% of it might have been face-to-face with salespeople, and now it's 95%. And I suspect if we really measured it, 99% of it of buyers don't want to talk to a human, right? It's no different than the experience of going shopping, right? I mean, so the bad news is that is a completely unrealistic perspective on moving things forward. However, right, so there are things, right, that benefit, the types of training that benefit from things that happen face to face. If that is really your vision, right, I would suspect if you described it the way, and I really appreciate your candor, the way you described it to me, almost everybody would say the same thing that I'm saying. There's a lot of people that, like, we got rid of the New York Stock Exchange 10 years after we needed the New York Stock Exchange. Like, it was just because we felt good about it, right? But if you make the argument that there are types of trainings that specifically benefit from face-to-face, right? So spy training. If I was training a spy, if I was training an FBI agent, FBI agents would say, if I look at your eyes and, right, if somebody asks you a question and you stare up to the left, there are, and it's a stupid example, but there are types of trainings that really lend themselves to face-to-face. So if your goal is to grow, then I wouldn't approach it the way you approach it. If your goal is to say, well, I want my playground to be the role that face-to-face training plays, I would not be thinking about all training. I'd be thinking about very specific types of training where you want to look at body language. Now, don't get me wrong, AI can do that too. Like AI can look at my body language, your body language right now, and probably get 95% of the way there. But there are probably certain types of training that could be your playground to say, that's what I really focus on. While AI does 95% of it, I'm going to do the 5% because that's going to help A or what. You know where this happens a lot? Jury selection.
Oh, okay.
Right? Somebody asks a question and say, well, do you have anything against big corporations? And they go, no. And they can tell they're lying, right? And don't get me wrong, AI is going to do that too. But I hope that's respectful and helpful.
It is. I just worry that wanting to expand more face to face, more, it could be in person, but it could still be coaching one on one, doing the way you and I are talking right now. I still call that person face to face. I worry that I'm not going forward in the 21st century, that I'm still longing for the 20th century.
Yeah. Well, listen, of course, that's, bourbon in a bar. Here's what I would say though.
Okay.
If we could all just figure it out, none of us would even know each other, right? Because the entrepreneurs of the world go, yep, I just came. There is this whole idea of judgment and context and things like that. So just don't long for the past. If you want to long for the past, get a bottle of bourbon, go out with your friends, do your things. But in terms of business is going where it's going. It's not Michael Dermer's opinion, right? It is what it is, right? But try to find your, again, our word playground, where you go, if this is what you want, I really specialize, and that's what I get known for.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful. It's given me something to think about. I still want to do quarterly, in-person, intense training sessions, but maybe I'll do it twice a year as opposed to having it as often. Maybe just twice a year. Maybe and of course I'm gonna do it in the Atlanta.
If you say insightful enough stuff and you highlight enough risk, they'll show up all day long. That's the key.
Okay. I've been inspired. Thank you so very much.
All right, great. Ben, you had your hand raised. Do you still want to? You put it back down. Would you still like to ask a question?
Oh, yeah. Yes. Thank you. I would like to ask a question from Mike. I know the AI you've been talking about is focused more around maybe the soft side of the AI. Maybe some other platform and things
Sam,
like that.
Sam, it's really.
Ben, there's a little bit of. Ben, you have a lot of interference.
Can you hear me?
Sam, why don't we have him? Why don't we have him type it in the chat?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay. I'll have. All right. Okay. All right. So in the meantime, Evangeline, I think you have a question, and I'll work with Ben. I think you're on mute. You're on mute.
Yeah, I think.
Great. I've just been absorbing everything that's going on because. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just getting into AI. I have a friend that's very knowledgeable and kind of taking me down the path slowly. I have got this unique process that I designed called Flow in the Workplace. And I did the original research with Csikszentmihalyi, who was the author of this work. And he actually measured artists, musicians, educators, and we wanted to take it into organizations. Can you actually design an organization so it maximizes flow? And he said, I think it's a great idea. So we did in Chicago with a colleague of mine who was a sports wellness coach. And we actually took it into the workplace. And the whole idea, McKinsey had written an article about this and said, we know that executives are healthier, happier, and more productive if they're in flow. However, we don't know how to do it consistently. Well, I have done it consistently because I've been researching this for the last 30 years. And so I've written a book called The Key to Personal and Business Mastery. And it's all my life's teachings. And I'm also a student of Pythagoras, the Pythagorean mysteries. And I come from Greek heritage, so I've studied the philosophers. And what they believed was that your intuition is the highest spiritual faculty, and that you can get information that you can't get from anywhere else if you're tuned in and you're in that intuitive state. And the masters would do it in silence. And why would they do that? Because they would tap into the collective unconscious. There's information, and that's how the Greek philosophers got their information. That's how they made all their contributions to society at the time. And so I've been working on, developing my intuition and teaching others how to do that and why it's important. I can bring things forward just
Do
by.
you have a question I can help you with?
Well, I want to know how I can take what I've got and make it more available to people.
Yeah. So what this reminds me of, congratulations, by the way, there's a lot of great thinking behind this. What this reminds me of is if you're talking about bringing this to companies,
well, not necessarily individuals who are interested in personal mastery. If that happens to be a CEO that's interested in that, I'm interested in working with them. I'm not interested in working with people just to make money. I'm 76 years old. I want to make sure that this work gets out. I'd like to make more money, obviously, because I can do more things and help more people. But my motivation is not making more money. It's making a contribution. So if I can do that, I'll be a happy camper if I can. I mean, I've been into money in the past. I was number one at Xerox, so I have a great sales background, but it didn't give me the personal satisfaction of knowing that I could take my creative gifts and make a real difference in people's lives besides creating more money for them. I worked for E&Y, so I know the whole drill about how that works. And I'm interested in something else now, of bringing this work forward for people that are interested in developing and, having personal mastery.
Yeah, listen, what I would say is, and I'm sure you've seen some of this in your corporate careers, whether it's for money or not for money, right? It's got to be compelling to them, right? And it's got to be able to get them to move the needle. The example I was going to give you was that companies Gallup came out with an engagement study and talked about engagement within a company, and very, very, very few people ever wrote a check about that because couldn't put it on a CFO's P&L, right? So the regardless of who your audience is, right? Whether it's a corporate audience, you've got to be able to do something that makes them go, or makes it compelling to them, right?
Of course. And yes, make money. I'm not against making it, but that can't be the only driver.
No. Listen, there's plenty of us that do things for reasons other than money, us included. It's just that to get people to pay attention to it, individual or company, right? We've got to be able to say, what is it going to actually do for me? And I think sounds like there's some great thinking behind that, but I think that has to say to somebody, oh yeah, I mean.
Well, that's the part, languaging it and presenting it and refining it so I can get through.
Yeah, as we would say, positioning is more important than product. It's much more important to position than it is to have the how, because nobody pays attention to the how in a cluttered world.
What can it do for me? I don't care about your how.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you for your thoughts.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Robin, I believe you had a question outstanding.
Oh, yes. Hi, am I the last one? Because I just put my hand up.
Not yet. Oh, okay. You were in the chat, so I mean, you might as well. No.
So I don't know if my question is appropriate for this, but it seems like people are going left and right. My question is, how do you know if you have a business that is simply just not scalable. And that what you really have is a lifestyle business. And if you want something that is exitable or scalable, you need to just, quietly burn down what you built and do something else.
Well, I think the framework for that, it's a great question, Robin. The framework for that is really changing a lot, right? Especially because of AI. And so there are lots and lots of businesses that if they create value in some way, if they're compelling to a consumer, compelling to an organization, then the question becomes, how do you use tools like AI to turn it into scalability, right? The consulting firms, right, it's human consulting, but what they tried to do as much as possible is to productize, right, what they do, which was otherwise a human business, right, and turn it into a product business by productizing consulting. So I don't think it's an either or. I think you have to be able to say, okay, if I have, I don't think the answer is lifestyle, not lifestyle. It's that if you create value, if you solve a problem for somebody, a business buyer or a personal buyer, if you solve a problem for them, then you have to say, got this tool called AI, I could frame it into anything. I'll give you an example. If we were to say to making tacos is a scalable business, you'd be like, yeah, kind of, but would you ever think that anybody would pay a subscription for tacos? Well, there's a lot of people that pay Taco Bell a subscription for tacos, right?
Yeah.
And so AI gives you the ability to deliver lots of different business models. So the key again is, do you have a playground? Are you compelling? And if you are, right, then the opportunity says, okay, how do I be creative enough? And I can be more creative before because I do have AI that can help me formulate these things.
So can AI be used to help productize? I mean, of course, right? Since it could be used for solving cancer.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Oh, sure.
All right, John, painter.
So my question is a little bit more abstract. We have a business that's coming up where we're going to be approaching people to teach them how to use AI for programming, because there are many pitfalls involved. And I've been working this particular part for the better part of 5 years now, from intro AI, getting into it. And I've transitioned from graphic arts using Adobe products to using AI image generation because it's faster and it's much cheaper. And so what we're doing is we have a program coming up to basically teach entry level, this is how you use AI effectively in programming. Right now, there's a lot of people that don't understand.
So, John, so what's your question, John? So
we're looking at how do we get engagement with seed funding.
Yeah, what I would say, John, is that the best source of information about how to learn how to code with AI is, no surprise, AI, right? So I think the challenge is going to be that again, this goes back to whether you're running a $30 million business or a $3 million business. You've really got to ask the question, why would somebody pursue this when AI has, these tools in spades? And an investor would say, why would I, even entry level, right? Like back in the day, it was, whatever for dummies, right? Like the books here. We have that everywhere now for free from the AI companies themselves. So I think the question that everybody has to ask is, why would this business model be viable if all of this is available through AI? And if you went on there and said, I'm the dumbest person in the world, I don't know anything about AI, you could have AI develop a coding for dummies. So I think that's the more fundamental question, John, is why do they need something? Because this is the question that investors are going to ask, right?
It's basically experience based. I've worked with a lot of people, and in fact, some of the people I know are pioneers in AI. And it's the old computer adage, garbage in, garbage out. If you don't know how to interact with the AI, then you're not going to get productive results.
Yeah, I don't think, John, I don't think anybody disagrees with that, but I think the question that I think you have to ask, and I think this is no different than the lifestyle business question, or is that, what is the business model that you have that is viable and variable? Nobody disagrees with that challenge, right? It's no different than the question about creatives, right? Creatives are saying, where do I fit in this world? Right? And if AI is the accumulation of all of the creatives out there, right? And you said, draw me a banana, it's going to be better at drawing a banana, and then you put a little bit of context on your knowledge of bananas, and there you are. So I think, John, you have to, training in this day and age is it is a hard road to hoe. Now, if you said that I have a very specific domain that I've spent my whole career in, and therefore I have a playground that build the 20% that I know really helps, plumbers do plumbing. With that's different.
My domain is mobile applications development at the moment.
Yeah, those are tough, right? Those are things that we can develop a mobile app in 5 minutes.
Well, it's not just developing the app, it's developing a good app and one that is accurate and correct.
Yeah, I'm just saying that AI is going to do that better than all of us. So the question for everybody here is not that everyone doesn't have value. People that have been there and done that, they bring the 20% of context, but when you're talking about training, or you're talking about development, or you're talking about these functions, these are functions that are building.
Yes, and who is this?
The most sophisticated apps in the world. Evangeline, can you go on mute, please, if you wouldn't mind? Oops, you can't hear us. So, John, just give that some thought, if you don't mind.
Looks like Rich has a question still. Rich, did you want to ask a question? Or, all right, what about, wait on Rich. Machine Digital, did you have another question? John, I think. Maybe not. Okay.
I've got one that somebody sent to me that I'll go through.
Okay.
How is AI different when you're a $2 million company versus when you're a $22 million company? It's a great question, right? I'm going to start with the $22 million company. AI should be doing 80% of every company function, right? So when you sit down and you think about OpenAI and they say, I'm going to have a 0-day close, right? I'm going to be able to close my books for a multi-billion dollar fast growing company in a day. That means that when you're a $22 million company, sales and marketing and finance and all the operational elements of this, and even if you're bigger than that, robots and right, like just you need to be able to have leaders that understand this, and you need to be able to, as a CEO, right, you need to be able to say, this is what a scaling company grows like, because AI allows us to do it better, faster, cheaper than other things, right? So AI becomes a foundational element of your company and a foundational element of each function, meaning that your CRM works more efficiently, right? It's more personalized, it's more real time, it's more this, that, and the other thing, right? Your operations, how you monitor and maintain inventory and automatically order and have more just in time. And, in finance, we talked about the 0-day close and getting real time financial information and like all these things that AI can help you do at a bigger company. As a smaller company that's trying to get there, it's when you don't have the leaders that run that, right? If I was a $22 million company running one of those functions, my best employee would be AI and AI agents, right? Yep. When you're younger and you're trying to get there, you're chipping away at that. Like, so for example, be very tactical. Let's say you have a CRM. The AI that's available in your CRM continues to get more and more sophisticated, right? If you say, I want 100 people, right, that bought honey yesterday, because I want to sell them something that goes with, I want to sell them tea, right? Think of the old school, the way this worked. You moved into a neighborhood, and before you ever got into your house, you got an email from Home Depot and an email from the local bank, right? The ability for AI to do sales and marketing function without all the people you used to have. You used to need even at early stages, a head of marketing and a head of social and a head of email marketing and website. Now you should just ask AI how to do those things. And if you integrate your AI with, like for example, ChatGPT works and Claude's equivalent to that, you just wire up your website to it and say, make my website better. And it'll come back and say, I'm going to change 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So it can act to do the work at younger stages, at earlier stages, that before you needed humans to be able to do. And so even if I could afford humans, I wouldn't hire them. Because in my example, going to fix a website, right, is something that AI could do overnight and otherwise would take a 90-day project plan.
Exactly. All right. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much, Michael. That was fantastic.
Yeah, listen, I think everybody, none of this, there's a double-edged sword to AI these days, right? And there's a positive and a negative. No different than being an entrepreneur, right? When we came up with The Lonely Entrepreneur and we were deciding on the colors, there's a reason why it's orange and black, right? So there's a little bit of positive and a little bit of negative that goes with the experience. And I never mean to cut anybody off, but the fundamental issues have changed from something of real value, right, that you may have, and a vision and a passion you may have, into how do you get somebody to actually buy it, right? And this is not up to us. I mean, David's questions were really interesting about sales. The whole idea is that we may long for the days that every one of the ads that we see it had a real human in it, right? That's not going to be the world, right? And so if that's not going to be the world, we might long for it. But from a business entrepreneurship, bring our vision to life, make money, we have got to realize that AI can do most things better than us. And at the same time, AI gives us incredible capability to bring to life value in ways that are faster than before. So John, for example, your conversation about, okay, I've been a mobile app developer for a long time. If we say we're going to mobile app develop better than AI, it's a tough sell, but you may bring insights to the table that may say, my 20% wrapped around what AI can do, right? Because I know right now, because we use them, we could go online and go to a mobile app development AI platform and answer 10 questions and have a mobile app that would get us 80% of the way there in 20 minutes, and then not 20 minutes, but 2 hours. And then if you add the 20% of insight on top of it, right, in a week, you can have a really powerful mobile app. So you have to think about the real value you provide. And then
value to Michael?
Yeah.
Okay. First and foremost, I am that person that I would come right up to you and tell you, stop telling yourself you've got an ugly mug. I am that inspirer and motivator I've taken on to eliminate procrastination for self-love healing. I address that person who's disabled, and for me, myself, and I eliminate the insurance company from paying $140,000 to $400,000 for me. And what I've done is I've eliminated an accountability partner or the need that I need somebody else to motivate me. I love AI. I love the concept. They're going to do everything I need. And I've been collecting data for the last 6 years to get this accomplished.
Great.
It's
Congratulations.
all to Facebook. It's an open in love. Facebook has an SEO already built in. I pattern seek. I say, okay, this can do this can do that. YouTube streams. I'll get my pennies in the future. I put out exercise videos, breathing, everything. For me today, it's free to them. I say, observe, pay attention. You're paying yourself when you do that. You're paying me through streaming, so don't worry about paying a paycheck.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Of course.
So
Well,
I
thank you,
figured
everybody.
Even the first person who was on here was talking about human to human training. I say peer to peer healing. And yeah, the human to human training can happen the same way. A plumber can train a plumber, an electrician can train an electrician, a cook can train a cook.
Yeah, I think the fundamental premise, folks, and the reason why we wrote the Entrepreneur Survival Guide is that the foundations have changed, right? The foundations of running a $25 million business and the foundation of running a $2 million business and the foundations of having an idea have changed. And I don't know what the actual number is, but here's what I'll tell you. McKinsey, one of the most prestigious organizations on the planet, has been firing tens of thousands of consultants because AI can do it better. And anybody who's known anybody that's ever worked for McKinsey, they're pretty smart people, right? And so if AI is taking out those people, the idea that we're not going to be able to, or that we're going to be able to just come to the table with some functional solution and say, how do we do it? You've really got to ask yourself, what is my playground where nobody else is playing? And who is my customer and how do they really win from that? Because otherwise,
That's what you.
yeah,
Go ahead.
Hold on, Colleen. So otherwise, right, you are just competing against a machine that will destroy you. Not beat you, but destroy you, right? So think hard about your playground, think hard about your customer, think hard about having a real intimate understanding of what you're accomplishing, right, for them before you start spending money on marketing and spending money on sales and spending money on all these different things. We just launched a free series on our YouTube channel called How to Avoid. And it's all about how to avoid $100,000 marketing mistakes and $500,000. And the reason for that is people aren't asking, not the only reason, there's a bunch of reasons, but AI is changing all this stuff. And because AI is changing all this stuff, it becomes more and more difficult to make money and more difficult to have differentiated business models.
I agree with you on the concept. AI is changing everything. I'm one of those people that started back in the 80s. I eliminated the procrastination. We did real-time order entry. I have been following and working with AI from the very, very beginning.
Yeah.
I love the search engine. I love the SQL querying function that puts all these files together. Works just exactly like what I'm trying to do now. Put the this to this to. And the fact is, my value is.
But Colleen, we're running out of time. I apologize for cutting you off. So we've got to jump. So Sam.